This house is mine now. You need to leave. Those words came from my daughter-in-law's mouth on a Tuesday morning in the kitchen I'd scrubbed for 32 years. I was standing at the counter, still holding the dish towel, still smelling the cinnamon from the tea I'd just made her. Her name was Melissa. My son Daniel had married her 3 years earlier, and I'd welcomed her with open arms. When my husband Robert passed away 2 years ago, Daniel suggested I shouldn't live alone in this big house. "Mom, let us move in. We'll take care of you." That's what he said. I believed him. The house had been in my name since Robert and I bought it in 1991. We'd raised Daniel here. Every floorboard, every coat of paint, we'd chosen it together, paid for it together. After Robert died, the loneliness was crushing, so when Daniel offered, I said yes. I thought it would be nice. 3 generations under one roof. Maybe grandchildren someday. But Melissa had other plans. It started small. She'd rearranged my furniture, saying it looked dated. She'd cook dinner without asking what I wanted, then sigh loudly if I wasn't hungry. She began treating me like a guest in my own home. No, worse, like an inconvenient burden. That Tuesday, she didn't just ask me to leave. She demanded it. "Daniel and I need our space," she said, arms crossed, eyes cold. "We're planning for a family, and frankly, having you here is awkward. We'll give you 2 weeks to find an apartment." 2 weeks. To leave the home I owned. I stared at her, my heart pounding. "Melissa, this is my house." She smiled, thin, sharp. "Is it, though? Daniel's been paying all the utilities, the property tax, the repairs. You haven't contributed a dime in 2 years. Legally, we have rights." I felt the floor tilt beneath me. That night, Daniel came home late. I waited in the living room, the lamp casting long shadows. When I told him what Melissa had said, he wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom, she's just stressed," he muttered. "We do need more space. Maybe it's time to think about downsizing for your sake." For my sake? I realized then, this wasn't Melissa acting alone. My son, my only child, was in on it. I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I sat at the dining table with every document I could find. The original deed, Robert's will, the mortgage papers we'd burned in celebration in 2005. Papers rustling. Everything was in my name. Robert had left the house to me, clear and absolute. But Melissa's words haunted me. We have rights. The next morning, I called my old friend Linda, a retired paralegal. I explained everything, voice shaking, hand shaking. "Margaret," she said firmly, "get a lawyer. Today. Don't wait." By noon, I was sitting across from attorney Helen Cartwright, a silver-haired woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense air. I laid out the documents. She studied them, her expression hardening. "Mrs. Brennan, this house is yours, fully. Your son and daughter-in-law have 0 legal claim. If they're pressuring you to leave, that's elder coercion, possibly financial abuse." The words hit like ice water. Abuse. My own son. "Here's what we're going to do," Helen continued. "We're going to send them a formal cease and desist letter. If they continue, we file for a restraining order and start eviction proceedings. You have the power here, not them." I walked out of that office with my spine a little straighter. At home, Melissa had already started packing my things. I found my photo albums in a garbage bag by the door. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. "Helping you. Get ready," she said sweetly. "The sooner you're settled somewhere else, the better for everyone." I looked her in the eye. "I'm not going anywhere." Her smile vanished. We'll see about that. The cease and desist letter arrived by courier 2 days later. Daniel signed for it, read it at the kitchen table, and went white. "You got a lawyer?" he shouted. "Mom, are you serious? We're family." "Then act like it," I said quietly. Melissa stormed in, snatched the letter, and read it aloud, her voice dripping with contempt. "Unlawful coercion. Elder abuse. This is insane. We've been taking care of you. By packing my belongings and demanding I leave my own house?" She slammed the letter down. "Fine. If you want to play it this way, we'll see you in court." I didn't want it to go that far, but they forced my hand. Helen filed a petition for declaratory judgment, a legal confirmation that the house was mine and that Daniel and Melissa had no ownership claim. They countered with their own filing, claiming implied tenancy rights and arguing they'd made financial contributions that entitled them to equity. It was absurd, but it was happening. Discovery began. Helen subpoenaed bank records, utility bills, property tax receipts. The truth came out in black and white. I had continued paying the property taxes for my savings. Daniel had paid some utilities, barely $300 a month. He'd done one repair, fixing a leaky faucet. That was it. Meanwhile, Melissa's behavior escalated. She changed the locks one afternoon while I was at the grocery store. I stood on my own porch, key useless in my hand, and called Helen. Within 2 hours, a police officer was at the door, court order in hand. Melissa was forced to let me in and return my key. The officer warned her, "Ma'am, this is her property. Locking her out is illegal." Her face was a mask of rage. Daniel barely spoke to me anymore. The house became a Cold War zone. But I had the law on my side. The court date came on a gray October morning. I wore my navy dress, the one Robert always said made me look strong. Helen sat beside me, calm and prepared. Across the aisle, Daniel and Melissa sat with their attorney, a young man who looked nervous. The judge, the Honorable Raymond Keller, reviewed the documents without expression. Then he asked Daniel directly, "Mr. Brennan, do you dispute that the deed to this property is solely in your mother's name?" Daniel hesitated. "No, Your Honor, but..." "And do you dispute that she has continued paying property taxes throughout the period you've resided there?" "Well, we've contributed." "Answer the question." "No, Your Honor." Judge Keller turned to Melissa. "Mrs. Brennan, on what legal basis do you claim any ownership interest in this home?" She stumbled through an answer about sweat equity and emotional investment. It sounded hollow in that courtroom. The judge's voice was steel. "The deed is clear. The will is clear. Mrs. Margaret Brennan is the sole legal owner of the property. The respondents have no claim to ownership, tenancy rights, or any equitable interest. Furthermore, their attempts to lock the petitioner out of her own home constitute unlawful eviction and elder coercion. I'm issuing a declaratory judgment in Mrs. Brennan's favor. She owns it all. Additionally," he continued, "I'm granting her the right to initiate eviction proceedings if she so chooses." Melissa's face crumbled. Daniel stared at the floor. I didn't feel triumph. I felt sad. But I also felt free. Outside the courthouse, Helen put a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing, Margaret." I gave Daniel and Melissa 30 days to move out. They left without a word. No goodbyes. I haven't heard from my son since. It still hurts. But I learned something crucial. Dignity isn't negotiable. My home, my name, my life, I will never apologize for defending them. I'm 71 years old, and I'm standing my ground. The house is quiet now. I've repainted the guest room. I've started a garden. And every morning I make my tea in the kitchen I've always loved, in the home that is, and always was, mine. If someone tries to take what's yours, don't be afraid to stand up. The law protects those who protect themselves. Which city are you listening from? Drop it in the comments. Names and details altered for privacy, story dramatized for entertainment purposes.